So the next question we're going to address is how to address your weaknesses in the intermediate level stages. And before I go into this question, make sure you have hit the subscribe button down below, turn on the bell so that you can receive notifications, and make sure to smash that like button so that the YouTube algorithm knows that this video should get more attention. So going into how you should address your weaknesses, as a beginner, you should have an idea of which lifts may or may not be something you're good at or not. So for instance, for me, the squat was something that kind of fit naturally for me. I could just increase the weight and I would just seem to get stronger. The overhead press was very similar actually as well. I did struggle with the bench press and the deadlift, but it wouldn't be a major lag, I would say. But I guess comparing it to what other lifters were doing online, my bench press was by far very lagging. Didn't really concern me. I thought had just average results. I just didn't respond well to average amounts of training loads and intensities, and that was just my result as a beginner. Now this is where things get interesting. As an intermediate lifter, you have the chance to start working and addressing some of these weaknesses, whereas as a beginner level athlete, your main priority was to stay consistent, follow a program, and just start making progress. It really didn't get as simple as following those 3 steps. But as an intermediate level lifter, you'll find out that life just doesn't go your way sometimes when you're trying to improve a lift. And you need to do a little bit more research, do a little bit of an unorthodox method in order to move up some of your compound lifts. But you will find that it shouldn't be too much work, and it should have gotten done in a relatively short amount of time. You just need to put a little bit more effort and focus into what you are doing. So I've touched on having weaknesses and strengths in some of the compound movements you are doing, but there are also other parts of training where you should focus on where you are generally weak at. So for instance, are you good at exploding with very low amounts of reps, or are you a good grinder? I find that very few lifters possess the skill set to master both of these, and you really fall in the spectrum of being good at grinding lots of sets or those last bit of reps, or you just smash PRs, smash high intensity reps, and that really is where you shine at. There's no right or wrong answer, but it just matters on what you are good at. And if you're thinking that, man, I don't have the explosive power to hit 90%, 95% on most days, I'm not a good grinder, I'm just average at best, I'd like you to reflect a little bit more than that. You probably lean towards one of these skill sets more than the other, and you can tell by your beginner training where you're likely to fall at. So for instance, if you ran a beginner program that called for AMRAP sets, as many reps as possible, where your last set of the exercise you're doing, you are doing as many reps as you can possibly do. So usually people do up to 5 reps for a particular set for a beginner program. But for AMRAP sets, you are not limited by 5, and you can choose to go as far into the stratosphere as you can go. Usually you leave 1 or 2 reps in the tank, but that's a whole nother topic in of itself. And if you find that during these AMRAP sets, you're able to hit 10 plus reps, 15 plus reps, you're probably good at grinding. If you're able to consistently do it each week, you find that this is where your results are showing in your program. Even if you don't like it and you're able to do it, it means that you're good at it. And depending on your goals of what you want to do with this lifting sport, you can decide on whether or not to learn the other skill a little bit better. Can lifters be good at both? You're not going to be exceptionally well at both, but if you're consistently training for 20 plus years, 30 plus years, there is no doubt in my mind that you're going to be extremely well in grinding reps if that's something you're good at or you trained on, and you would be extremely good at hitting 1 rep maxes if that's what you train for or if that's what you're naturally good at. So as long as you're giving it enough time, you are treating the whole process with respect and just taking on the challenges one step at a time, you're going to get stronger and you're going to hit your goals faster than you think. Another weakness that many intermediate lifters might face is dealing with accessory works and dealing with lagging body parts. Typically, a lot of beginner programs do not include accessory exercises. So you don't do any abs, you don't do any calves, you don't do much shoulders apart from overhead pressing. So you just really need to have more exercises to have more volume. And really any program online can help you be better in that regard. But in general, many intermediate lifters do have a pretty good idea of where they're weak at and where they're not weak at just based off doing the big 4 exercises from the beginner program: the squat, the bench press, the deadlift, and the overhead press. So you can really tell which parts are lagging, and as an intermediate lifter, you would start to address those gradually, and soon enough, these weaknesses won't be as weak anymore. An important point to focus on is to not allow weaknesses to be misinterpreted as something wrong with you pathologically or something's wrong with your form. Keep in mind that if another weakness might be that you're getting injured quite frequently throughout your lifting career, which shouldn't really happen, but a lot of hardcore lifters would say that if you're not pushing yourself near injury or to injury, are you really training at all? I think a more wise approach would be that you're training in a smart way that allows your body to continue to recover, and you are processing the information slowly, and you'll get stronger and stronger gradually. Of course, there are times where you'll have explosive growth and much more straightforward and linear progression, but if that happens, great, but that should not be your concern. Your main concern should be that you're training in the safest way possible while having the most opportunity to get stronger. And these are just some of the weaknesses that you can look over. Maybe you have some that I haven't mentioned. And while it is important that you guys work on your weaknesses, don't forget to keep training your strengths as well, because that is one of your main powerhouses and something that's going to help you complete the lift, even though your weak muscles, weak body parts are not strong enough to handle the loads. So I hope this sparks some ideas in your training history about what you need to work on in the future, what you're currently struggling with, and hopefully this will help put into your mind some ideas of what you should do moving forward and what you should do to be a stronger, more balanced lifter. You can see that oftentimes it's not the strongest lifter in one category that wins, but really it's one of the lifters that are the most balanced in their 3 lifts. So for instance, if you take powerlifting competitions, it's really not the strongest deadlifter that wins the competition, but it's really a balance of all 3 powerlifting movements, the squat and the bench press, that make up the total. Even though 1 or 2 of the lifts might make up a majority, if you're severely lagging on the 3rd lift, that might be the one that gets you 2nd or 3rd place. So I hope this helps you guys clarify some of your weaknesses, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.